Welcome to a new video in my home automation and Node-RED series. If you are interested in home automation and subscribe to many different channels, you probably have seen or heard about Shelly. And I've also seen examples how people use the Shelly, but for some reason I never owned or never purchased any of the Shelly products. And a couple of weeks ago, I got an email from Alterco Robotics, who manufacture and sell the Shelly products, and they asked me if I would like to do some review videos. I obviously said yes, so now I have two Shelly test products. I just picked two because there is actually quite a wide range of selection of various products for various features. And before I jump into the review videos of this Shelly 1 PM and the Shelly 2.5, I thought I'm going to just make an overview video about what the Shelly is and how it is different from many of the other products that we have seen on this channel, for example, the Sonoffs or some of the Tuya products. If you have seen a Shelly in the past, you most probably recognize the distinctive shape, which is this rounded shape with a clipped edge on one side, which houses all the connectors. And you most probably have seen the one which is in the blue color, and that's the first and the basic model, which is the Shelly 1. And this is a Shelly 1 PM. And the idea behind these devices, well, not all of them, but these type of devices, is they would fit inside your wall socket behind your switch. So you would use a regular switch face, and you sort of make it smart by connecting it to one of the Shelly products. So in a sense, it's very similar to the Sonoff Mini that we have recently reviewed. But also it has many differences from the Sonoff products. And if I want to summarize in a single sentence, maybe I would say that these Shelly products are the Swiss Army knives of home automation devices, because the way they are designed is, I can see that they clearly thought about all the different options how people might use this device, whether it's going to be like stock or DIY, and they try to fulfill all these requirements in a single device. So there are many different ways you can use them, and that's what I'm going to talk about this video. First of all, if I just take these two devices in my hand, you can see, well, you can't really, but if I bring it forward, you can see that they are designed for multi-voltage. They are also designed for DC. So in AC mode, they work from 100 and 240 volts, so they can be used anywhere in the world, but they can also operate from 24 to 60 volt DC. And actually the base model, the blue Shelly 1, can even work on 12 volts. I have heard a couple of examples how RV people use Shelly 1. Even if you are not connected to the grid, you just have a DC network, and if you only have like 12 volt DC batteries and a 12 volt network, you can still use Shelly 1, and you can have like a smart RV or a mobile home. But with all of the other products, you need at least 24 volts, which I think is still common in most of the industrial scenarios. So you can just have two, let us say, batteries connected in series, and all of a sudden you have 24 volts, and you can have all the smart home features without having mains power. The other big difference is that these products are not designed to be only used with a companion app. They do have a companion app, and it is called the Shelly Cloud. So there is an Android and an iOS app which is called the Shelly, and you can connect these devices to it, and you can control all these devices, whether you are on your home Wi-Fi network or you are on mobile data. And the connectivity would be provided by the cloud service that Shelly provides. So in this respect, from the consumer point of view, they work pretty much like any of the Tuya or the e-wheeling products. But if you want to use it locally, even with the standard firmware, while they are connected to the cloud, you can still use REST APIs, so simple HTTP commands to control these devices. Each of these devices has a built-in web server, so you can access all the features locally using their own web server. And there is a possibility that this local firmware can also support MQTT commands. The only caveat is that if you enable MQTT, you don't have a cloud service. But if you want the cloud service, you can still use the REST APIs. And I do get messages from time to time from viewers who are living in part of the world where internet connection is not absolutely reliable, or let me just go back to the mobile home or the RV environment, where Yeah, you still want to have smart home features locally, so access all these devices on a local network, and you don't have to be connected to an internet. And with this, you can control these devices directly without even needing to have a central, control hub or your own home red or your own home assistant. You can just do all the features on these devices locally. Although that I mentioned that you can use these devices using its cloud application, or you can use these locally, all these devices are designed so they can be flashed with a custom firmware. So if I turn this Shelly 2.5 over, you can see some pin headers there, and on this one there is a removable tab, and you can see the pin headers under those. And everything is documented. So if you go online, if you look at the product page, then they clearly state what are the different pins to flash the ESP, what are the different pins, how they are physically connected to the relay. So everything is documented, everything is designed in mind that if you don't like any of the, the standard firmware and the standard functionality, and you can just go ahead and flash it with, for example, TAS motor, and you don't even have to open up the device, just connect some pin headers and off you go. And the third difference, which might not be obvious from the box or just by looking at the, the product, is this is not another Chinese product. As you can see, Alterco Robotics is actually a company in Bulgaria. So you can see the Bulgarian address and you can see the local phone number. And what it means that all these devices comply to the European safety and electrical standards. I didn't think about this too much until I remembered that there was somebody on my channel who commented, I think it was on the Son of Mini video, that he said that he would rather use a Shelly because the Shelly has all the necessary CE certification, which means that if he has any claim with the insurance company, at least the insurance company won't be able to say that it's caused by some sort of substandard devices or devices that don't comply with any regulation, because these follow the regulation, and you can see the details on the website as well. And since we are talking about safety and regulation, I also have to mention that, for example, these devices have some temperature probes inside. So they monitor the internal temperature, and if that internal temperature rises above a certain threshold, these devices would actually turn off to protect themselves. But they are still using the same ESP modules that we have seen from other manufacturers, or for example from Sonoff. Since it is designed in the EU and also it complies with some EU regulations, that also means that it's not exactly as cheap as, for example, some of the Sonoff devices. So you can check their website to see how much the individual products cost. But again, I think they also offer more functionality. If you want to purchase any Shelly devices, they have their own web shop, so you can order online. They are also available in Amazon and eBay. They also have local warehouses in various regions, so they can offer regular and express shipping as well. And just to give you an idea how the Shelly app and the web server, which all of these devices provide, look like, I created this very quick setup. I mean, it's just a couple of wires, and then one lamp is connected to each of the output of both the PM and the 2.5, so it's not really a nice elaborate setup. I will go into the wiring details when I do the review video on the individual devices. And I have the Shelly app on my device as well, and that's how it looks like in the Android Play Store. The main concept of the app doesn't really differ from much of the apps that we have seen in the past. Probably the only thing here is that having rooms and assigning the device into rooms are much heavily enforced than in any other application. So just for the sake of testing, I've created a test room, as you can see here, and I can see both of my devices here. The reason you see 3 rows because the 2.5 actually has 2 outputs. So if I turn them on, you can see all of them come online. I may or may not have mentioned, but all of these devices do power metering. In fact, the 2.5 does power metering individually on both of the channels, and you can see that one is consuming 8.6 watts and the other one is 2.7 watts per each channel. And by assigning these devices to individual rooms, the whole consumption is also nicely integrated into the room level. So if I click on any device, I can see the details. I get some statistics how the what is the power consumption. I can, choose between different views, and I can access all the settings here, and I can do on the other devices as well. And you can download the statistics, and it saves as a CSV file on your device. You can go into the room level. If you click on the 14 watt power consumption, you can see how much power is being used by each of these devices. You can look at overall, usage in the for this room. And again, you have the same breakdowns as before. It feels like a really nice concept how they, really think about the devices and how the devices are linked to each rooms, and then, group the data on a room level. And each of your rooms, you can create, group of devices as well, and you can also create scenes. And in the scenes, we are seeing the similar type of functionality that we have seen in other devices. So you can set up, if I create a test scene, you can assign the scene to whether that's in the room or that's in the dashboard, which is sort of like on the main screen. And in the next, I need to choose a picture. Okay, I choose that one. So similarly to other applications, you can create conditions. Those conditions can be timer conditions or activation. So the timer can be something that you want to execute, let's say every 10 minutes, or it can be based on a particular hour and a minute of the day. And also you have one-time activations. Again, you specify a specific date and a time when you want something to happen. And of course, the activation can be based on a device status. So for example, in the 1 p.m., I can specify if I want to do something when this device gets turned on, or if the power consumption goes above or below a certain threshold. And even in the condition type, you can change whether you want a one-time condition. So let's say that condition is true for a certain amount of time, or if it should be done repeatedly or only once. Then on the action side, so let's say if I turn my Shelly 1 p.m. off, then I want to do something, and again, you can send out a notification on your phone or your device, or you can do something on your other devices. So for example, I want to turn the device, one of the output of the 2.5 off as well. And let's say you can even specify if you want to do it after a little bit of delay. And you can also set up the whole scene to only activate on certain days of the week or in certain periods. Actually, that's quite interesting. I have received not a huge amount, but definitely more than one comments where somebody was asking me if they set up, for example, in the EV-Link scene between a motion sensor and a light, but they only want that to work just certain hours of the day. And I had to say that you can't do it because it either runs all the time or it doesn't run at all. But with this activation, period or time, you can actually do that to restrict that, certain logic to a specific day of the week or, specific hours within the day. So if I turn off my Shelly 1, then my Shelly 2.5 will turn off as well. The delay on the app is slightly delayed. It's all the cloud communication, but eventually it all syncs up, and as you can see, the consumption has gone down as well. And you have the similar type of scenes and the groups on sort of like on the house level on the dashboard. And you can see overall consumption here. So, well, I only have one test room, but if you would fit these devices throughout your house and you define all your rooms, then you can see consumption in each of your room. It gives a very decent overview of how much power each of your devices are consuming. Again, assuming that you are using devices that they all have power management option. And also to give you an idea how much all these devices are customizable, I just want to give you a couple of ideas. So once you are in the device, of course, these settings would differ from one device to another, but you have your timers here. So there is separate functions here to configure auto off and auto on. You can also set up weekly schedules. So we have seen these functions on other devices as well. Also, you have a lot of different internet security and other features. So that's how you can disable the whole cloud access. So you can set it up per individual device, whether that device should be accessible for the cloud or not. You can also restrict login through the web server provided by the device. There is a separate option for safety, and that's only for safety of this particular device. You can specify device related actions here as well. If you are using the cloud function, I guess it's easier to set up scenes, but if you would be using these devices locally, individually, you can even set up URLs that the device should call when it gets switched on or it gets switched off. So you can set up these devices to talk to each other via various URLs. More stuff to configure in the application settings. So you can set up load type. You can set it up whether that particular device should be excluded from the house or the room's consumption. And you can even put a PIN code or a PIN lock on one particular device. So if it's controlling something more sensitive, then you can protect it with a separate PIN. And a lot more other settings here. So you can set up power on mode. And that's also, again, a very interesting and a nice feature, because I haven't really talked about in detail about these devices, but they are all designed to have an external switch to turn the device on and off. Of course, the 2.5 has two of these inputs, and you can even specify what type of switch is connected to that, whether it's a momentary switch or a toggle switch like a regular light switch, or you do have some other options as well. I don't want to go into details, just really give you an idea of the breadth and the depths of things that you can all configure here, and the various different modes that you can think about. And of course, this view looks slightly bit different. I mean, the main screen looks pretty much the same for the other Shelly devices as well. But for example, in the settings, I think we are going to see a few more things here which are specific to that particular Shelly. And one more thing I wanted to show is I am using this mobile app which is called the Fing or F-I-N-G. Yeah, fun fact, it means fart in Hungarian, so it's always funny for me to say that. And I use this app to discover my devices on my Wi-Fi network. So here you can see the two Shelly devices, and all of them have a quite a easy user-friendly name. So you can see Shelly 1 PM and some random ID, and also Shelly switch 2.5 or 2.5, and again a random ID. And that's going to become important just in a few seconds when I talk about the local control. So if I remember correctly, one of my device was, I think, on 190. Yeah, that was the 1 PM. So just by typing the IP address of the device, you can access the local web server which is running on this device. And as you can see, you have pretty much the same control from here what you have from the mobile app. And of course, this is much quicker because we are talking directly to the device. But the screen is pretty much the same. I mean, you don't see the power statistics, but you have the timers, you have your weekly schedules, your internet security, and you see pretty much the same settings what we have seen in the app here. By the way, I haven't mentioned in the app, but under internet security, there is an option here which says developer settings and enable action execution via MQTT. So that's where you can enable the MQTT access, and by this you would lose the cloud connection, because as I said, it can be either or. But now we have cloud connection and we can still control it over here. And the other reason I mentioned about this mobile app, because besides referring to these devices using the IP, which obviously can change, they also have their own DNS names, which we can see in the Fing app. And if I just type it into the browser behind http:// we can control it that way as well. So you don't really have to mess around with manual IP settings. It's possible to set up manual IP, or you can restrict the IP based on the net address, but you can just use the DNS names as well. So this is my Shelly 1 PM, and that would be the Shelly 2.5. And as you can see, you can do everything from here as well. You have the settings, you have the internet security, and yeah, the various channel specific settings. So everything is here. And if you ever wish to dig into the details, you can come to the Shelly website, you click on support, and here on the right there is a section for the developer, and you can read about the various APIs as well. So you can control these devices externally, calling their cloud services, and everything is documented here. And you can just use HTTPS request to post comments to the cloud service, to the various devices, and everything is documented here. And if I go back to the REST API, then you see all the different things that the device supports locally. And we can see the overview here. And actually, I was looking at this one as well, but if you just start analyzing the messages going back and forth between the device and this sort of like small website, you can see all the things that and all the functions that they support. For example, each of these devices would have a status message. So if you just type /status, you would receive a JSON where it says everything about the device, what Wi-Fi is connected, what's the IP address, whether MQTT is enabled, what's the local time, what's the status of the relay is on, is true or false, the power consumption, which I think you can see it where it is. Yeah, power is here. You can see the temperature measurements that are taken by the device internally, so it's 38.80 degrees inside. And you can also control the relay as it is specified here. So let me just do a simple one. So as you can see, /relay/0 turn equals on or off. So if I do on, it just turns on. And we also get a response in a JSON. So now it says it has been turned on. So very simple, and you can call all these HTTP commands very easily from Node-RED, probably from Home Assistant as well, definitely from OpenHub. I remember when I was doing some OpenHub. So it is very easy to integrate with the home automation system as it is, without even changing the firmware to TazMotor. To be honest, I don't want to go into the MQTT functions in this video because I think it's probably getting long already. But if you look at the documentation, there is a separate section on the MQTT as well. It explains here how the various topics are going to be auto-generated by these devices. So it's pretty similar to TazMotor, where you specify the device name and sort of like these command and status messages would get automatically generated. It's pretty much the same here as well. So based on the the model and the device ID, it will get the the various commands and the inputs and temperatures, some of the other details auto-generated, and it will get published. And all the things that are visible here, so the various commands that are described in the status, or for example here in the relay, how I turn it on, works exactly the same in the MQTT. So you just need to specify it as the turn topic on relay/0/turn, and you give it on or off or toggle, and it will just do the thing. Pretty much how you used to these things in TazMotor as well. And that's the end of my Shelly overview video. I hope you like the content, and if you are interested in these products, definitely stay tuned, because there are reviews of these individual 1 PM and the 2.5 coming, and hopefully I will receive other Shelly products to review. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.